This is the Business of Social podcast powered by STN Digital. I'm your host, David Brickley. Each and every show, we talk to industry experts, break down the ever-changing digital social marketing landscape. And today is no different. We always like to do these in between interviews, Will, the mini pods edition. So I try to tell you, Will, you're the moderator, you're the co-host of the mini pod. So it's important for you to get ready.
I think you just called me an industry expert also, so it's a big day for me.
All right, so we wanted to talk about a few things that have happened in our space as of late. None bigger than Clubhouse, which we have known that it's been getting some steam for quite a while now. 2 million users, even though it's invite only, so it's growing pretty crazy. Once they take the invite only off, I'm sure it will really go to a really large place. But really what took it off, Will, was, as you saw, Elon Musk joined Clubhouse. I think it was on a Sunday night at 10 p.m. You sent me a DM, said, hey, by the way, this dude's going live at 10 p.m., which is very odd timing, by the way, for Elon.
Late start, yeah.
He may be a late riser, but very interesting conversation. None more interesting than what he said about memes. Picture is worth 1,000 words, but a meme may be worth 10,000 words, one of the most complex form of communication, which we all like to hear, being a social-first marketers and using memes on a lot of our accounts. But, if those of you who don't know, Clubhouse, they're calling it, one of their software engineers called it, if Twitter was a podcast that you lived inside of. I like to call it the audio version of Reddit as well. I don't know, Will, if you have any thoughts on what how you would explain the Clubhouse app.
Yeah, I kind of side more towards the audio version of Reddit. It kind of has a little something for everybody, which Twitter does as well, but definitely more in the I mean, I got to give them credit. Where I thought we were out of ideas for social platforms and apps, they somehow made a new one.
Yeah, and I think we're monitoring this really closely, obviously, at STN. Does it make sense right now for brands to jump on it? Potentially. I think what we usually see with brands is they're just figuring out things like TikTok. So if you haven't figured out the main core platforms, those are going to get much more, Liz's favorite term I use, Will, much more bang for your buck if you can go all in on the the YouTubes and the Twitters and the TikToks. But yeah, I mean, if you have extra time, it's important at the very least to dig in, understand what that community is about. I think I have like 3 extra invites, so if anybody that listens to the show wants an invite, if I have one, I'll hook it up, no problem. Giving is sharing is giving. The only issue with the Elon Musk chat room that I saw, I was able to get in after pressing join room like 4,000 times in that first 5 minutes, but there was a 5,000 person limit, which I think really was air by Clubhouse, knowing how big that was going to be. I think you actually listened on YouTube, right, Will? And they had like 100,000 people listening in real time versus Clubhouse, which cuts you off at 5,000.
Yeah, I tried to join and have the same issue, and I think that was one of those things where they were probably so stoked to get Elon and making sure everything was in order, they forgot that there was a 5,000 person max.
Yep.
So yeah, I just hopped on Twitter. I found some guy who linked out to like a guy that was on YouTube Live. So I basically watched via YouTube, via Clubhouse, via Zoom, or however that works.
Yeah, and I think what was interesting is Elon Musk wasn't on Clubhouse. I'm not sure if he even has an actual avatar or a profile. What they really did is I think they just interviewed him on Zoom, and then they just put their phone next to their laptop because it definitely sounded like it was a recording of somebody's laptop. And then additionally, when you look at other rooms that were also keeping that going, like people would. Their internet would go down, and then someone else would unmute, and then they would use the pod or the laptop audio. It was kind of it was clunky for sure in nature. It wasn't Elon's avatar lighting up when he was talking by any stretch of the imagination.
If I had to take a guess as a somewhat of a producer, I would say that they probably tried to get him on Clubhouse. He couldn't figure it out or just didn't do it. And he's like, you know what? I'm just going to call you. And they're like, okay, well, we'll try to figure this out somehow, some way.
And then people were recording the actual room, the official room, and creating other rooms inside Clubhouse. So there's 17 different rooms with 5,000 people maxed out. But it goes to show, how much people want to listen to Elon Musk, but also if a very interesting marketing tactic you get a big name like that to say, hey, I'm going live and talking all things, everything, especially with the GameStop scenario where he interviewed, I didn't even stay that long. I was listening for an hour and a half. He started talking about space and all that. Kind of lost me for a second. And then I hopped off, but then I heard that he brought on Vlad, who's the CEO over at Robinhood, and asked him about all the craziness of GameStop, which that was news too. So
was
amazing.
that announced? Like, was that marketed as a part of the Clubhouse room, or did he just brought him in?
I think he just brought him in randomly.
I didn't see anything about it.
Almost
You told me
midnight,
about
right? So really good earned media value for Clubhouse. I think a lot of people have been asking us this week in particular, what's Clubhouse all about? And wondering, even some of our employees, I'm sure, finding out about it for the first time. So that's going to be I think the next thing. You know, there was a few different audio apps that tried this, and it never really had the room feature like Clubhouse does. So I really, if there is stock that I can buy right now, they're not public on the NASDAQ or stock exchange. You cannot buy them currently. They are valued at $1 billion. They are getting more investors. But if they were public, I would buy stock in it because I really do think it's a social app that's here to stay. And it provides a different, TikTok gave you kind of the infinite scroll, 15 seconds, music. It just gave you a different lane. And I think Clubhouse gives you the lane for those that want to chat, over audio. This is going to be the next big thing.
They kind of give me a similar vibe or situation to Netflix. Like right when they were first getting started, it was like you had to order a disc. For people that don't remember that, there was some digital, and then now you fast forward 10 years, Netflix is the powerhouse that they are. I think Clubhouse just needs a little time to kind of figure out what exactly they want to be.
Yes.
How the interface is going to work, how all that, the invitations and all that stuff. So I think they just need a little bit of time, but the potential is there.
And also
sure.
too, it looks like they maybe go on the subscriber route. So maybe you get enough people in there, then people pay $1 a month or something. Like that's one thing that the major 4 or 5 social networks have not done. It's all been ad based. But if you look at what's happened with data and Cambridge Analytica and all the people, Social Dilemma, maybe the move here now is to make it more of a private community. You charge $1 or whatever it may be, and maybe you don't have to deal with all the we have to leverage your data to be able to get the money in order to make it happen. So that might be interesting and not something I haven't really thought about. Like the Facebooks and the Googles and the antitrust has been such a pain in the that if you're a Clubhouse and you're sitting there with 2 million users, do you look at a different revenue generation type of situation rather than simply selling people's data to advertisers? And that's going to be huge going forward.
Well, Darren Ravel does a yearly breakdown on what Twitter could be worth if they had a pricing structure. But maybe for Clubhouse, you would buy a Clubhouse Gold, you get unlimited rooms, you can record, you can download things, or maybe you have a free version where you get 2 rooms a month or something like that.
It's tough. It's tough when the entire market is free. Like you love Reddit, Will. Would you pay $1 a month, or would you just say, I'm not using Reddit anymore? That's a serious question, right?
I would for sure pay for Reddit, yeah. Reddit and Twitter.
But I think, if you have 100 people, I'm sure there's only 10% that actually would pay cash to stay on top of an app. But that 10% could be, 100 million
Well, you
people.
have to have a free version for sure. And then you have to have something to incentivize people. Do you get more time on the app? Do you get unlimited access?
Yes.
Do you get exclusive rooms? Whatever that pricing
And maybe it's not just that. If you want, guaranteed access to our celebrity series, right. Every week we have Kevin Hart, Elon Musk, Will Smith, what have you. By the way, on IG Live right now, we're simulcasting this podcast, and Nikki giving you some heat with the no beard, the clean shave look.
Thank you, Nikki. I think I'll take that as a compliment.
This actually rolls very nicely into the entire GameStop saga, whatever you want to call it. That actually, when Elon brought on Vlad from Robinhood has been ran through the coals as well in terms of their, I guess, brand health, because people are really irritated at them. So those of you that don't know, I probably won't be able to break it down as simple as it is because it's pretty complicated. But all in all, a bunch of people, and I know you've been following this story closely, Will, a bunch of people in Reddit got a community together. They decided to, I guess, short the stock, if that's the right terminology. But basically, they went against hedge fund managers that were shorting retail operations like GameStop, like AMC, knowing that those stocks were going to fall, especially during COVID. And the market got a lot of influx of activity because those people were smart enough to say, if we all go in and buy it, we're going to be able to raise the price of this thing and be able to make some money on shorting this stock. And it pretty much broke the stock market. Let's just be honest. That was something that nobody ever thought that was going to be possible. But I don't know, 10,000 people in a Reddit room pretty much broke, capitalism in America.
And it goes to show you how quickly, if anyone is ever delaying something because of a policy, Wall Street had that snuffed out in basically a day. Robinhood didn't let you buy anything, yep. and there was a whole fiasco with Robinhood, like you mentioned, and a Webull and a couple other ones. But they, from how I understand it, they figured out that for every $12 the stock went up, that hedge fund Melvin Capital would lose $1 billion or something like that.
So yeah, they lost billions.
And then they got to the
and
point where the short squeeze happened, and everybody essentially became a stock market expert last week. But it was one of the more interesting
the frustrating thing
happened.
for a lot of people was what Dave Portnoy said from Barstool is like, it's like you go for it on fourth down, you miss it. It's time to turn over the ball to the other team, and you're like, oh, you know what? Let's give them a 5th and 6th down. So the Redditors were playing by the rules. Like, that's how the stock market is built. If you want to invest your money, you're able to risk your cash for the potential reward of being able to double down or triple down on that. And they did just that. They were winning, and they decided that the hedge funds didn't like that, so they changed the rules. Like, that's just big business. I think 70% of Robinhood's ability to do trades goes through Citadel, which is one of their parent, I guess, partners. And if Citadel calls Robinhood and says, hey, we will kill our partnership right now if you don't fix this, they fix it. So,
yeah, Robinhood definitely took a hit. I get from their sense, like you just said, you kind of have to side with your big partner, but man, it just came off as a terrible.
And I guess I wanted to ask you this question too. I know we talked to Ash over at Reddit recently about this, but I've heard a lot of stuff on Twitter that Robinhood had so much amazing brand equity and brand health, and people were really big fans of them, as obviously Reddit too just had a really strong brand presence and brand health. And I've seen a lot of tweets like overnight both of those brands have been decimated and completely disrespected, which I think is a little bit of overreaction. I think obviously it's raw right now because a lot of people are frustrated at both those platforms. Facebook did it too. They shut down rooms, like all these different companies. Google deleted 100,000 reviews, but a lot of people said that was because bots were doing that. So I can see why they did that. But big business kind of turned this stuff off. And I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Because I think a lot of people on Twitter are saying that Reddit and Robinhood's, brand value is ruined forever.
Well, and you had Google deleted like 100,000 1-star reviews of Robinhood. Yeah. So it's tough because both those apps market themselves as, we're a place where people can get together.
For the community.
Yeah, exactly. Robinhood doesn't have any commissions for trading. So it's like if you're a new person and you want to figure this out, and then it's like, when push comes to shove, you really aren't.
It's tough. It's just tough when like I said, if you and I were playing a football game and they changed to, 4th down, but never mind, it's 5th down now. Like, that's a frustrating. You've been in fantasy leagues where your commissioner has changed mid season. A catch is worth 1 point now, not half point. That's infuriating. So imagine having millions of dollars on the line, or even if somebody like you and I have a couple $100 on the line, that's pretty frustrating.
Well, I know the one thing we didn't mention also is Discord is a huge part of this, and basically that's a more real-time chat room essentially, and that's kind of how all this got started, like on the crypto Discord and the Reddit trading Discord. So you have all those factors come together. Next thing you know, GameStop is worth $500 a share in basically 3 days.
And they're like, by the way, they may go bankrupt. Like, that's how. But I think the GameStop guy was able to go out and get a couple more $1 billion of an investment because of that stock price, even though it's kind of inflated and kind of BS in a way. Over my head on some of those logistics of the stock market. But this is just kind of opens up a whole new Pandora's box of what I've been saying a lot on this show. And I know you were listening on the Reverb podcast I was on with Clark last week. But this internet thing is just still so young, man. And we don't understand the power of what it can do. And now the fact that the reason this never happened in the stock market before is like, how are you going to get 10,000 people and all get together in some town square and all decide at the same time to do it? But with the internet and chat rooms and forums and just everybody being able to utilize it the way they know it can be utilized, I don't know, there should be an audit of every system through all businesses and and cybersecurity too, right? There's so many things that have been not tested or tried and true because it's never been an issue that a chat room or a hashtag can completely shut down an entire government, an entire industry, and it's capitalism at its core. That's the crazy thing that every business should be looking at it. If 10,000 people got together right now and did X, are we ready for that? Because I think that's what people are starting to realize is that you can really do a lot of things if you get the right amount of people on anything. And we've seen that with some of the political, right-wing movements and things like that too, and in both good and bad ways.
I think you could say kind of in the same realm, something similar for Zoom. Nobody really used Zoom to this extent when the pandemic happened, and I give them a lot of credit for every single person in the world. My grandparents to my siblings uses Zoom now on almost a daily basis, and they pretty much handled that without any without any repercussions or really anything going too wrong.
Originally, they had the just the data, not the data breaches, but the hacking and people jumping in the rooms and things like that. But they moved pretty quickly.
They moved that quickly. I think the one other factor in the stock market thing that Elon either said on Clubhouse or tweeted was that you had all these people with $600 stimulus checks or credit cards that played a huge factor of like, we all have this $600 essentially. Let's take this and put it towards one common cause. And a lot of people seem to have cashed out on that, but I don't know if it was just a perfect combination of the stars aligning of a stimulus check and Reddit and Robinhood and people realizing the math in this GameStop stock. But if I had to bet, I think it'll happen again in the future.
Yeah, and I think the overall thing here too is like I really believe that the next big, world war is going to be more cybersecurity, because I think, when it comes to other countries, when it comes to, again, 10,000 people banding together and doing something, not to say that what the Redditors did was bad or anything like that. I think they manipulated the market and within the rules, like they played by the rules, right? But what I'm saying is it's just interesting, like that really showed a huge hole in the stock market and the S&P and all those different things so we can all just like come together and get a hashtag and a trend going, and we can literally force people to lose billions of dollars, just kind of like not as a joke, but as a pre-planned attack essentially on that. So it's just going to be interesting. I think it's a wake up call to big business, government, financial markets. Like, if that starts happening at a large rate, then the stock market becomes obsolete because nobody trusts what's going to happen on any given day. Because at any time, someone can put their laser beam on one stock and either make it go up or go down.
Well, that's why you had people migrating to Dogecoin, which is literally a meme cryptocurrency that I don't even know went up to like 0.08 or something like that. But it's like
and you know what the Winklevoss twins believe, right? They believe that Elon Musk is going to start mining for gold on asteroids up in space. And then gold is going to drop significantly because there's going to be too much gold in the market, and then it's all going to go to crypto. So that's their belief. So yeah, crypto and just the ability. Again, I think we're so young. I know it's only been like 20 years when you come to social networks at this scale, but I think we'll see a lot more of this. I think every year we'll probably see a large event like this that really disrupts a age-old institution in a big way.
Well, it's an interesting dilemma because if I was part of the Reddit group, I would say we're just doing the same thing those guys have been doing for years, but they do it behind closed doors, and
of course,
much more private. So. And of course they're not going to get punished. Things are going to go back to how they always were. But it's you say, how am I supposed to win? I tried to do the same thing that they're doing, and it got shut down.
It's also like, remember American Idol? Like for years on television programs, if you voted via text or whatever, like it would be a legitimate vote. And then Sanjaya comes along. Remember this? And they said like vote for Sanjaya.com. He was one of the contestants. He was a pretty awful singer. And they got him like all the way to like third place because it was just like a band of people that came together like, hey, this is funny. Let's keep on voting for this dude, even though there was far more talented people that were being kicked off because they didn't have the grassroots movement of an online chat room. So
I used to call on my parents' landline and vote for people on American Idol.
25 cents. You might have got a slap on the wrist for that.
Oh, I'd probably charge them a couple bucks in votes. But that happened, I want to say the Blue Jays, or I don't remember the team, but like the first year that MLB was like, okay, retweets and hashtags will count for the All-Star vote. And some team just tweeted their entire lineup and it went viral. And for like a day there, the entire Blue Jays starting nine was the All-Star game lineup. And then MLB stepped in and was like, no, this isn't right. And they said, look, we're playing with the system.
Same with the NBA All-Star too. Remember they went to it used to be 100% fan vote.
And then they had like Brian Scalabrine was starting.
And then they moved it to what, 50% fan vote, 25% coaches, 25% players or media. Sorry.
Yeah.
Anyways, to make sure that fans can't vote in Scalabrine.
So it happens time and time again that people take advantage.
We got a
of the
comment
system
says they can't hear Will. You might have to move your phone closer.
No. I have nothing to say to you.
You're being too casual.
There you go.
Again, I've been trying to tell Will, like, Will, you're an important part of this mini podcast edition. So, all right. So, and I also talk loud. So there's that. All right. So what do we have next? We were going to talk about live events, right?
Yeah. Super Bowl particular, I think.
So I think one thing we've been talking a lot about, and it's interesting for everybody listening to keep in mind, and I just thought about this when on that Reverb podcast again, Will, when they asked me this question, is I think the good news is from all the data, it looks like COVID, at least by the end of this year, is going to be continuing to dwindle down with the vaccine, with the weather, with just the hospitalization rate. Hopefully there's not a huge other spike. That's totally possible. I get it. But hopefully we're on the right side of this whole thing. And I bring that up because you are going to see such a huge spike just from the human element to want to go out to events. Like once we're able to do that, and I know, Will, you and I have talked about that. Like I'm not a big concert goer. I'll go to like one a year. I'm going to want to go to like 9 in 2021, 2022, just because I also think like people our age, like everybody's going to be allowed to be 21 again. Like I'm not a big club, go get bottle service guy, but now that I haven't been able to even do that, if I wanted to for 2 years, you may want to, scratch that itch. So it's going to be interesting. The Vegases of the world, the Coachellas, all these different events. It's going to be, I just think once those doors open, man, everybody that loved doing those things, plus everybody that didn't love doing those things, are all going to be doing those things at the same time.
Ben and Nikki and I have had tickets to go see this Queen cover band for like close to 2 years now, and it obviously keeps getting pushed. And I promise you, like the day that we're actually able to go to that, we'll probably go way over the top with too many drinks and all that. But it's like people are waiting to finally go out and do those things.
We opened out here in California recently where we can actually do outdoor restaurants again. And I was telling a lot of people around the office, or I guess say virtual office, that I went to Little Italy in San Diego on Saturday. It was like one of the best nights I've had in 9 months. And all it was like 3 friends, breaking some bread, God forbid, cheers on a cocktail. And you just forget like how important that human element is. And even seeing you at the office here for some of these like podcasts and essential business, if you will, it's just been nice to like, I don't know, pass someone in a hallway and like talk Lakers or whatever we end up doing.
I think to go back to the events thing first, I think just travel, cruise ships, live concerts, whatever it is, all that stuff is going to be 3 times.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. That's why I wanted to get a point on this podcast, just for everybody out there, all the listeners to ruminate on a little bit. I think what you're going to see is right now there's nothing going on because you can't. We can talk Super Bowl in a second, but there's going to be 20,000 fans, but they're only going to be
I think like 5,000 of them are healthcare workers.
Yeah, and I think most of them are all vaccinated already or something like that, so they kind of have that. But my point being is you're going to see this huge surge. Again, from the people that really weren't big on live events, they're going to want to scratch that itch as well. You're going to see this huge surge where people are sick of virtual. They're sick of being on their laptop or looking at their phone. They want to go out and see humans and be out in space and be outside. You're going to see this big surge in that. Probably 6 to 18 months, I would predict, Will. And then after that, I think it's going to level out a little bit. So for marketers, I think it's important. Virtual events will always be there, but I think there's going to be a tendency for just the human element. They're not, once things open back up, there's going to be like a 3 or 6 month period there where people aren't really signed up for a lot of virtual events, yourself and myself included. But once you kind of scratch that itch and you're able to get out and experience some events and go outside, then I think it starts to level out a little bit. So the virtual events wasn't really ever an option for people like you and I before COVID. It's really not going to be an option, I think, once we can go outside for a few months. And then, the industry, I think, will level out where you can choose, do I want to go to an event or do I want to, stay inside and do a virtual event?
Do you think it's going to happen like the Super Bowl, essentially, like, okay, we'll get 20,000. Do you think it's just going to snap back to normal and it's like full capacity concerts? We're trying to make as much money as we can that we lost, or they're going to have to slowly
I think it's going to be much like they're kind of doing already in certain states, like limited crowd, social distancing. It may even be show your vaccine record for the next year or so, like literally to that point, because the liability from a Live Nation, a Coachella, a Comic-Con, they just can't take the liability on that. There's a big super spreader event at one of their places. So they're going to, even if they don't need it, let's say everybody is vaccinated, I still think there's going to be like a year period for live events that they're still going to try to socially distance, have sanitizer everywhere, check for your vaccination, simply from the legality standpoint, more so than anything else.
I see pictures now of like old sporting events I was either at or just watching old games, and I'm like, I cannot believe how many people are that close together.
Just screaming their lungs out right in your face. Yeah. So that part's going to be, it's going to be, I think, a gradual incline until, I guess, the vaccine, or what's it called, herd immunity and the whole thing. So it'll be interesting to see. Super Bowl. So Super Bowl is this weekend as we record this. By the time this comes out, the Super Bowl will probably be a wrap. But that being said, a lot of, not a lot, but there's a handful of brands. Was it Budweiser or Coca-Cola, or I could be wrong on that, but chose to not do a Super Bowl commercial this year and instead donate it to frontline workers. Was it Budweiser? Do you remember?
No, Coke, I saw announce that they were pulling out of not doing a Super Bowl commercial. And I said to you, I bet you they will get more publicity from just that headline than doing a traditional commercial.
Yeah,
where they
so
pay
I think,
$5-10 million
and they've done that for the last like 35 years or whatever. They've done a Super Bowl commercial, so they pulled out. One of my favorites that I've seen so far is the Alexa Michael B. Jordan commercial that I showed you yesterday. So they did a good job on that one. So it'll be fun as always to see what marketers end up doing. And we've talked a lot about in this program too. Like I think people are over in these unprecedented times. Like so, we'll see if any brands tries to do that. And I don't think they should, but we'll see. Like, I guess who's on point, who's on voice. I'm excited to do a mini pod after the Super Bowl to kind of see who the winners and losers were of the Super Bowl per usual.
I think like Nick Woodhouse said in his panel a few months ago, like this is the time to not do a Super Bowl commercial. Like you've done the same thing. Budweiser, the Clydesdales for 20, 30 years, 50
try
years,
something
whatever.
new.
This is
use that as an excuse.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I know we got to wrap up here, but finally, Jeff Bezos, steps down as CEO. He's now going to be like obviously chairman of the board. I think he was already acting in that type of capacity anyway. That being said, let's applaud Jeff Bezos for what he's been able to do. I know big business gets a lot of heat, and people may say Amazon's not fair or whatever you want to say about him. But the dude was able to create a recurring revenue model in 82% of U.S. households. Like. I don't have anything. I can't give you an analogy because there's nothing better than that when it comes to a successful business person. I think they went from 0 to 1.8 million employees in his 20 years as CEO or whatever it may be. I saw a fun tweet like, I don't want to talk to Bezos. I want to talk to the HR manager that onboarded 1.8 million. But what an incredible inspirational story that he was able to do as CEO. Of course, he'll still be a big part of Amazon. But I just seeing that stat come across my timeline, 82% of U.S. households have an Amazon Prime membership. That's incredible.
Well, and I mean, just like the perfect model of they had a great business of Amazon. You can get anything you want and it'll get delivered to you. Then he upped that and added video and TV and shopping and home and grocery. I mean, you name it, Amazon does it. And all pretty much successfully.
Those guys always blow my mind because like when you're already worth $100 billion or whatever, you think it'd be like, all right, I'm good. But like now let's do Alexa. Now let's, try to get NFL rights. Now let's, all those different things that they keep on pushing and evolving. And that's what visionary companies do. When you look at, Disney and Sony and all these different companies that have done well over the last 100 years, they don't stop. They, Disney buys ESPN, Disney launches Disney Plus. Like they're always innovating. And that's just like, I think the core of Amazon. And I think Amazon's going to start getting into healthcare, by the way. Watch out, Kaiser.
Do you think at a certain point, it's not about money for him, right? It's just like, I want to make something new. I want to be able to grow this business even more. I want to hire more people. Because like you said, right, I would have $100 billion or however much money in the bank. You'd be like, I'm good. Like pass this on to whoever else wants to run it. But a lot of those guys aren't wired.
I think
like that.
Elon Musk said that too, like on the Joe Rogan podcast. Like you don't want to have my brain. This is much more like, I don't know, a death sentence than it is like an amazing thing to have because your brain's always moving. Like that guy can never rest. He can never take a load off or chill. Like he's always thinking about the next innovation. Those type of guys are like the Thomas Edison of our generation, I think. So
that's what I was thinking for Bezos. Like, okay, eventually once you pass all these things off, and sure you're on the board and you're still involved in some capacity, but like at some point you're waking up like, what am I going to do today? I don't.
And that's where the reason he's stepping down as CEO is to get more into, I think, one of his Earth foundations. So much like Bill Gates, right? Like Bill Gates is like donating $1 billion to AIDS research and clean water initiatives. Like, I think at that level, you start thinking about how can I make the world a better place before it's all said and done. So you understand that transition.
I mean, Bezos, who knows?
82% of U.S. households.
It's probably never be done again.
What's
the second closest? Apple, Netflix?
That's, I got nothing. I was going to say, that's like Wilt Chamberlain scoring 100, but I feel like it's like somebody scoring 250 points in a game. Like you can't even really... What he was able to do for that is incredible. All right. This was fun. I know we had a few things when it came to Clubhouse, the GameStop madness, live events, and what it's going to look like in the future. We'll talk Super Bowl commercials and what marketers are able to do on the next mini podcast edition. And then, shouts out to Bezos. What a run. All time.
I think quickly, too, to add at the end. So we've obviously been a little bit light in January, as everyone knows, but have a ton of stuff coming down the pipeline for the next many months, foreseeable future. So if you haven't heard from us a ton lately, I promise you that's going to change in the very near future.
Wow. You heard it here first. Will Kelly. Too much pressure on you. All right, this has
Don't
been
touch
another
that
edition of the Business of Social podcast powered by STN Digital. I'm your host, Dave Brickley. Thanks so much to Will Kelly, of course, Dave Furker for setting all this up. We will see you guys on the next episode. Thanks for listening.